Men, when a woman cheats, she doesn't always act cold or distant. In fact, many cheating women become even more affectionate, not out of love, but out of strategy. This is one of the most dangerous misconceptions about infidelity. The belief that betrayal always shows up as emotional withdrawal or obvious behavioral changes. The reality is far more sophisticated and psychologically calculated. Today, I'll expose 5 strategies women use to keep you from finding out they're cheating. These tactics are rooted in manipulation psychology, emotional intelligence weaponized against you, and sophisticated understanding of how to manage another person's perception of reality. Before we begin, hit subscribe and comment below if any of these sound familiar. It might open another man's eyes before it's too late. Strategy 1. Guilt reversal, making you feel wrong for suspecting her. The most powerful weapon in a cheating woman's arsenal isn't secrecy. It's making you feel guilty for suspecting her in the first place. She uses emotion as her strongest defense, transforming every reasonable question into an accusation of your character rather than an inquiry about her behavior. This psychological reversal is so effective that most men abandon their suspicions not because they found evidence of innocence, but because they felt too guilty to continue questioning. Whenever you question her whereabouts, tone, or behavior, she immediately turns the tables with devastating effectiveness. "Why don't you trust me?" she asks, her voice carrying the weight of wounded innocence. "You're acting paranoid," she declares, making your reasonable concerns sound like mental instability. "You're ruining our relationship with your jealousy," she claims, positioning your suspicions as the real threat to the relationship rather than her actual betrayal. The psychology behind this tactic is rooted in manipulation through emotional redirection. This is deflection at its finest. She redirects your focus from her actions to your reaction. Instead of answering where she was for 3 hours, she questions why you're tracking her time. Instead of explaining the secret text messages, she attacks your invasion of her privacy. Instead of addressing the evidence that raised your concerns, she makes the conversation entirely about your supposed trust issues, insecurity, or controlling behavior. The goal is crystal clear: to make you feel guilty for even thinking she could betray you. This guilt serves multiple strategic purposes. First, it stops the current line of questioning immediately, protecting whatever she's hiding. Second, it conditions you to suppress future suspicions before you even voice them, knowing that raising concerns will result in you being made to feel like the bad guy. Third, it allows her to claim moral high ground, positioning herself as the victim of your suspicion rather than the perpetrator of betrayal. The emotional manipulation runs deeper than simple deflection. She weaponizes your love for her, your commitment to the relationship, and your desire to be a good partner. "If you really loved me, you'd trust me," she says, making trust a test of love rather than something earned through consistent, trustworthy behavior. "After everything we've been through, you still think I'd do that?" she asks, using relationship history as evidence of current innocence, when past faithfulness doesn't guarantee present loyalty. Strategy 2. Overcompensating with affection and attention. Suddenly, she's more loving, more available, more physically intimate than she's been in months or even years. You think the relationship is improving, that whatever rough patch you were going through has passed, that she's finally reconnecting with you. This is exactly what she wants you to think. In reality, this surge of affection is a smokescreen, a carefully calibrated strategy to reset your suspicions and make you lower your guard. The overcompensation typically appears in specific patterns that reveal its strategic nature rather than organic emotional reconnection. It often follows periods when she was distant or after situations that might have raised your suspicions. She was cold for 2 weeks, you started questioning things, and suddenly she's initiating sex, planning date nights, and being extraordinarily affectionate. This isn't random emotional fluctuation. It's calculated recalibration of your perception. She gives small doses of affection to reset your emotional radar and calm your doubts. A surprise home-cooked meal after weeks of takeout. Initiating physical intimacy when she's been rejecting your advances for months. Spontaneous "I love you" texts during the workday when communication has been minimal. Each gesture serves as evidence you unconsciously catalogue. See, she still loves me. I was worried for nothing. Things are getting better. Female psychology reveals that guilt triggers a compensatory instinct. The cheater balances the scales by being nice. The psychological discomfort of betrayal, even in someone actively choosing to cheat, creates internal tension that demands resolution. One way to reduce this cognitive dissonance is through compensatory behavior that allows her to feel like she's not entirely a bad person. Yes, I'm cheating, but look how nice I'm being to him. I'm not a monster. It's not love. It's strategy, distraction through affection. The increased attention serves multiple tactical purposes beyond just guilt management. It keeps you emotionally invested in the relationship, making you less likely to seriously consider ending things. It provides plausible deniability. If she were cheating, would she be this affectionate with me? It creates positive recent memories that overshadow the suspicious behaviors that preceded them. The pattern becomes particularly obvious when you map the affection spikes against other behavioral indicators. She's been secretive about her phone for days, then suddenly plans an elaborate romantic evening. She comes home late 3 nights in a row with vague explanations, then spends the weekend being exceptionally attentive and loving. She's been emotionally distant for weeks, then suddenly can't keep her hands off you. These compensation cycles reveal the affection's true purpose. Watch for affection that feels performative rather than genuine. There's a quality to authentic intimacy that's difficult to fake. It's relaxed, natural, and emotionally present. Strategic affection often feels slightly off, too enthusiastic, too perfectly timed, or emotionally hollow despite the physical actions. She's going through the motions of affection while her mind and emotions remain elsewhere, creating an uncanny valley effect that you sense but might not be able to articulate. The sexual component of overcompensation deserves specific attention because it's particularly effective at disarming male suspicion. Increased sexual availability and even initiation creates powerful psychological effects. Evolutionarily, men are wired to interpret female sexual interest as a sign of faithfulness and commitment. When she's actively pursuing sex with you, your brain processes this as evidence of exclusive interest, making it nearly impossible to simultaneously believe she's being sexual with someone else. Strategy 3. Changing routines with logical excuses. She subtly shifts her schedule, but wraps every change in believable explanations that sound perfectly reasonable on the surface. New workout routines, late meetings at work, or helping a friend through a difficult time. Each excuse comes with enough detail to sound legitimate, but not so much detail that inconsistencies become obvious. The brilliance of this strategy lies in how it exploits your desire to support her personal growth and respect her independence. The trick is consistency. She repeats the same excuses often enough that they sound routine. The first time she mentions staying late for a work project, you think nothing of it. The second time, it's a bit unusual, but still reasonable. By the 10th time, it's simply become her late work night, a normal part of the weekly routine that you no longer question. This is pattern conditioning in action, where repetition creates normalcy, and normalcy prevents scrutiny. Psychology principle at work. This is pattern conditioning. Once you've accepted her excuse several times, you stop questioning it. Your brain naturally categorizes repeated patterns as normal to reduce cognitive load. We can't analyze every behavior every time, so we create mental shortcuts. She exploits this psychological efficiency by establishing new patterns with built-in excuses, knowing that once these patterns are established, they become invisible background routine rather than foreground suspicious behavior. Her new normal becomes her cover. The Wednesday evening workout class becomes an untouchable 2-hour window every week. The Saturday morning coffee with girlfriends becomes a regular commitment you'd never think to question. The occasional work dinner becomes frequent enough to be expected, but not so frequent it seems excessive. Each of these routine changes creates protected time where her whereabouts are explained in advance, and questioning them would make you seem controlling or unsupportive. The excuses themselves are carefully chosen for their resistance to verification. Gym workouts can't be easily confirmed without seeming insanely jealous. Work obligations have built-in privacy. You can't show up at her office demanding proof of meetings. Helping friends creates social obligation. Questioning whether she's really helping someone in need makes you look heartless. Each excuse category is selected specifically because challenging it carries social and relationship costs that make investigation unlikely. Watch how she introduces these new routines. They don't appear suddenly and fully formed. They're introduced gradually with compelling backstories. My doctor said I need to exercise more, so I'm thinking about joining a gym. This plants the seed. A week later, I found a great class that fits my schedule. This establishes the plan. Then, I'm really enjoying these workouts. I feel so much better. This creates positive association. Finally, Wednesday is my workout night becomes unchallengeable routine, and you never notice the affair partner was introduced during this same timeline. The logical framing of excuses is crucial to their success. She doesn't just say, "I'll be out." She says, "I need to stay late to finish the Johnson project before the deadline." The specific detail makes it sound authentic. She doesn't just say, "meeting a friend." She says, "Sarah is going through a divorce and really needs support right now." The emotional context makes questioning it seem cruel. Each excuse is wrapped in enough legitimate-sounding context that challenging it feels unreasonable. Strategy 4. Controlling the narrative before you ask. She plants stories before you ever think to question her, creating a pre-established framework that makes later discoveries seem innocent because they fit within the narrative she's already built. This is perhaps the most sophisticated strategy because it requires planning, foresight, and understanding of how human memory and suspicion work. By the time you discover potentially incriminating information, she's already explained it in a context that makes it seem harmless. Mentions a coworker's name casually in advance, so you won't find it suspicious later. "There's this new guy at work, Mike. He's actually pretty funny. He told the funniest story in the break room today." This seems like innocent sharing of her daily experience. 3 weeks later, when you see Mike's name on her phone, your brain references back to that casual mention. "Oh, that's the funny guy from her office." The suspicion that might have arisen from seeing an unfamiliar male name gets neutralized by the pre-established narrative she created. She might even joke about rumors or tease you about jealousy to test your awareness and create plausible deniability. People at work keep joking that Mike and I should date because we both like the same coffee. It's so ridiculous. This serves multiple purposes. It puts the idea of her and Mike together in your mind but frames it as absurd. It tests whether you show signs of jealousy or suspicion, and it creates a reference point she can use later if you discover something. "I already told you people were joking about that. It's just office gossip, nothing real." Female psychology reveals that preemptive storytelling gives her narrative control. She creates the context before you ever discover the truth. This is information warfare at its finest. By controlling when and how you first hear about potentially suspicious elements, she controls your interpretation of them. The information comes from her, framed by her, with emotional context she provides, all before you have any reason to doubt her framing. Strategy 5. Using emotional triggers to keep you distracted. She starts small arguments or emotional discussions whenever you get too close to the truth, creating psychological chaos that prevents you from following through on your suspicions. This strategy is devastatingly effective because it exploits your emotional responsiveness and your commitment to the relationship, transforming every moment when you might expose her betrayal into a moment where you're instead defending yourself or trying to repair relationship damage she's deliberately created. The timing of these emotional diversions is never coincidental. You're about to ask about her phone behavior, and suddenly she's upset about something you did last week. You're questioning where she was yesterday evening, and she redirects to how you've been acting distant lately. You're concerned about a name that keeps appearing in her messages, and she launches into concerns about why you don't care about us anymore. Each emotional attack appears exactly when your investigation gets close to truth. You've been acting distant, she says, despite you being consistently present and engaged. Why don't you care about us anymore? She asks, even though you're the one trying to address concerning behaviors in the relationship. These accusations aren't based in reality. They're strategic manipulations designed to put you on the defensive and shift focus from her suspicious behaviors to your supposed failings as a partner. Psychology principle. Emotional overload keeps you reactive instead of observant. When you're emotionally activated, defensive, guilty, anxious, or hurt, your cognitive capacity for analytical thinking decreases dramatically. You're no longer in observation and assessment mode. You're in emotional response mode. This is exactly where she needs you to be to prevent discovery. A man defending himself isn't investigating his partner. He's too busy proving he's not the problem she's claiming he is. Instead of focusing on inconsistencies in her stories, you're busy trying to fix the relationship problems she's suddenly claiming exist. The conversation that started with you asking about her phone habits has become an hour-long discussion about your supposed emotional unavailability. By the time you're emotionally exhausted from defending yourself and trying to address her concerns, the original question is forgotten entirely. This isn't accidental. It's the strategic outcome she engineered. The sophistication of these strategies reveals an important truth. Successful deception requires effort, planning, and psychological manipulation. Women who employ these tactics aren't passively hiding affairs. They're actively managing your perception of reality through calculated psychological warfare. The energy required to maintain these strategies consistently is significant, which means if you're experiencing these patterns, the affair is real, and she's working hard to keep you from discovering it.